Hello and welcome to the WiSP News Desk. I'm Chris Stafford alongside Nancy Gillen, who's in London, recovering, and she'll explain why in a minute. And this is June the 2nd that we're recording, and this is already Season 4, Episode 20. Nancy, explain why you're recovering. It was quite the story, because we sent you off last week thinking you were going to have this nice little sort of training exercise in the hills of northern England.
Yeah, so I signed up to do a trail run in the Lake District, so a trail half marathon. And yeah, the event kind of ended up being not as described due to a last minute change of route because of nesting birds on the original half marathon route. So yeah, they ended up, the organisers tripled the elevation to 1,600 metres. And the distance in the end ended up being 25 kilometres as well, which is quite a significant amount over a half marathon. And yeah, it essentially just kind of turned into a bit of a challenging hike. There wasn't really much running and more kind of like climbing up steep hills and kind of scrambling down even steeper drops. So yeah, it was interesting. It took us, I was with some friends, so there were 5 of us doing it. It took us 7 hours, which was a lot longer, probably double the amount of time that we had expected to get the race done. But yeah, I think it was it wasn't the most well-organised event, and I think probably the strong argument that it was actually pretty dangerous, but I did ultimately have a good time. I think the fact I was with my friends made it fun. I think if I had been by myself, I probably would have sat down and cried for a bit or something, but yeah, it was a good weekend ultimately.
Yeah, well, at least it was a different adventure to what you normally used to, but it wasn't what you expected.
No, yeah, and I think, I don't think you could define it as a trail run. So yeah, that's still an experience. I still want to do that at some point in the future. Yeah, hopefully one that's a bit better organised.
Yeah, well, hopefully, and you're no worse for wear.
No, I got a bit sunburnt, but that's it really. But in terms, that goes after a few days. In terms of kind of like muscle injuries or anything like that, I came away unscathed. So that is what is most important.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be ready for you to get back into training. I know you're having a few days off here, and then you get back into training because you are planning to do another marathon, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't quite know which one I want to do yet. Like potentially, I think there's a few in October, but I think that might just not be feasible. But Leeds now has a marathon, which is taking place next May. So yeah, maybe eyeing up that as a potential. So yeah, as soon as after I've had this little break, I'll be back out running again.
Yeah, well, good. Stay fit. I'm trying to do the same here as well with my cycling, getting ready for a big ride later in the year. More of that another time. But let's get straight to the news this week, Nancy, because obviously the big story is the Grand Slam that's happening at Roland Garros in France, the French Open tennis. It's getting closer and closer to the final now. So give us an update. As this goes out on Thursday, the 2nd of June, we're very close to the final. So tell us what we can expect and what your prediction is.
Yeah, so really, I think quite exciting final. So I think to the surprise of absolutely no one, Iga Swiatek,
including you.
Yeah, including me. Iga Swiatek is in the final of the French Open. She beat Kastakina 6-2, 6-1, so a very comprehensive victory, especially in a semi-final of a Grand Slam. I believe that's now her 34th consecutive victory, and she's coming right up the top behind the two Williams sisters for the longest running streak in the 2000s. I think it's Lindsay Davenport or someone along those lines who has an absolutely ridiculous winning streak set in the 80s or the 90s. But yeah, Swiatek is coming up fast behind the Williams sisters in terms of record running, record wins. The person that's going to be challenging her is Coco Gauff, the American tennis player who seems like she's been around for absolutely ages, but she is only 18 years old. As she first kind of burst into the scene, I think when she was like 15, which is why it seems like she's just been about for a long time. It is actually her first ever Grand Slam final, and she beat Martina Trevisan 6-3, 6-1 in the semi-finals to get to the final. And yeah, she has a really, really, really stern test. I think I'm really looking forward to that final. It's two very young, talented female tennis players. Say probably Swiatek has been able to, I think, kind of prove herself maybe a bit more at the top stage. You know, golf has been around for a while, but like I said, has only now just got to a Grand Slam final compared to Swiatek, who won the French Open in 2020. And for me, I'm going to have to back Swiatek just because I think she looks pretty invincible right now. It looks like no one can really beat her. She's winning nearly every match very comprehensively in 2 sets. So yeah, that's my bet for the final, but it should be a really exciting encounter.
Well, great experience for Coco, if nothing else.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
To have that kind of exposure at this point in her career. And you mentioned how, she's been around since, she was a young age of 15. And it reminds me of a tweet I saw recently. Gabriela Sabatini, the Argentina tennis player, who was WTA star for many, many years in the 80s, 70s, 80s. She's been retired a while now. I think she's turned 50, but she's playing in the veterans at Roland Garros and in the doubles and going really well at the moment. But what I did see her tweet a few days ago was the first time she played there. She played Chrissy Evert and Gabby was 15.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's an experience.
That's some experience. But yeah, technically they haven't lost their touch. They may be veterans. They may be in their 50s or 60s, whatever now. You can be in your 40s, I think, or even less for the veterans. It's only once you're retired from the circuit, you can become a veteran. And, they're just so court savvy. It's all about economy of effort, right? And that's what sport is all around, right? All about, be streamlining and making it as efficient as possible. And these women are so court savvy. It's great fun to watch. So yeah, don't forget the veterans because they play at most Grand Slams and they are great fun to watch. All right, we have a story that's just come out of Roland Garros, and which is capturing the headlines right now on social media. And it's a quote by Amelie Mauresmo, who former WTA player herself, who took over the directorship of Roland Garros last year. And she said something quite shocking and disappointing and surprising. And Iga Swiatek had something to say about it.
Yeah. So yeah, the what she said was I think there's been quite a bit of a debate about in the French Open. The men's matches have been taking place in the evening, kind of when you've got more of a crowd and it's more of a blockbuster event. Mauresmo basically said that scheduling had happened because she didn't feel that the women's matches had as much appeal as the men's matches. Which, like you said, is quite a shocking thing to say. And as someone who I know, like we've kind of described her as a bit of a trailblazer in tennis in terms of, she's a female kind of organizer of a Grand Slam. She has been the coach of Andy Murray. So like a female coach for a male player. That was, I remember at the time it was quite people were talking about it, it was something that you don't really see much in tennis. And as to kind of suggest that women's tennis isn't as appealing as men's tennis is, very disappointing. And I think inaccurate as well, to be honest. I think women's tennis is brilliant at the moment. It's incredibly entertaining. Swiatek, I think, said that her words were a little bit disappointing and surprising, and that she thinks women's tennis has a lot of advantages, and that it's really, really appealing. So I think Swiatek's right to kind of, I think, speak out about it and say that she's disappointed, because it is a very disappointing kind of point of view to have for someone who's so
right,
significant in tennis. And a woman.
And apparently there's just been one women's match featured in the night session compared to 9 of the men.
Yeah, which and that is like that in itself. I don't like, maybe the men play 5 sets and maybe some people prefer that and maybe see it as more entertaining, but you can't say that some of the women's tennis matches that have been happening at the French Open have not been entertaining. That is it's not great that it's kind of, she said that she doesn't find women's tennis as appealing, and then that is actually at a disadvantage to the women because they're not being put on for the night matches. Like that whole, it's just very archaic view, I think.
Yeah, and even Pam Shriver, former WTA player, now she's a commentator herself, she said it was crossing the line and it's not acceptable. And I think she's going to get a lot of backlash from this, Amelie. It's disappointing, it's surprising, and it's politically incorrect for a person in that position too, I would suggest.
Yeah,
regardless of her, personal feelings, I think, politically, I think it's incorrect.
Yeah, no, I do agree, and I think it's just a shame that it's kind of something that will overshadow what's been a really great tournament so far.
Yeah. Well, talking about gender equality, which we're always doing on this show. One way or the other, we have a couple more stories here too, and one of which is concerning tennis, and it's about Wimbledon, who do seem to be catching the headlines just lately, for not always for the right reasons. That's coming up soon, the Wimbledon Championships, but the All England Lawn Tennis Club, as it's called, has decided to change the honour roll and drop the titles for women, which it had always had on its honour board forever, right? Never for the men, but for the women. So we're getting equality, and they're just going to put the initials instead of the title, Miss, Mrs. or Ms.
Yeah, exactly. So as an example, so as it currently is, it would say on the board like Miss S. Williams or Miss A. Barty, but on the men's board it's just N. Djokovic or A. Murray, or they don't have that initial, I don't know what it's called, but they've taken that a bit at the start out. Yes, so that's now going. So I think that's quite significant as well. And obviously Wimbledon's very traditional, so I think and maybe you could say, it doesn't mean much, it's just on a board, but I think if you want men and women to be treated the same in sport, that includes those tiny little things like that, and just making sure that men and women are presented the same way. Yeah.
And just for the record here, Amelie Mauresmo will be a Mauresmo now from the 2006 winner of Wimbledon. And I bet I know who you think is going to win the 2022.
Well, I can't see anyone stopping Swiatek right now, but I don't know. I don't know how good she is on grass. I don't really recall seeing her play on grass that much, so maybe it might kind of switch up a little bit. I'd love to see Raducanu have a good run at Wimbledon again this year. So we'll see.
That will be nice. All right, so Wimbledon will be here before we know it. But let's move on to some rugby stories now. We've got a couple of stories coming from the world of rugby union, and it involves the men's rugby union game, and that is that there's going to be all-female official team. And that US and also USA referee Kat Roche has been named the assistant referee for the Rugby World Cup. So some good stories coming out of rugby for women's officials.
Yeah, exactly. So a lot of kind of female officials making a name for themselves. So Holly Davidson will lead an all-female team of match officials for next month's men's match between Portugal and Italy. So they're going to be the first all-female team to lead a men's rugby union, to officiate a men's rugby union match, which is obviously very significant. And it's also the first time a female referee has officiated a men's Six Nations team in a test match, with Italy being part of the Six Nations. So Davison, as always, with these women who are kind of making waves, she's very experienced. She became Scottish Rugby Union's first full-time professional women's referee in 2017, and has officiated a lot of big matches, including ones in the United Rugby Championship. And then more good news as well with the Rugby World Cup, with the assistant referees being named, and USA rugby referee Kat Roche among that number as well. So some really good to see across all sports. It's always great to see female officials included. So that's a very encouraging sign.
going to turn now to another story coming out of the UK again, and this is one from Sky Sports News, and it's something I think we've got to work on this, Nancy. We've got to, I don't know what we do, start a campaign, because there's only 3 female sports statues in the UK.
Yeah, it's really poor. So there's 240 statues of sports people in the UK in total. Only 3 of these are female athletes, so that's less than 2% are female athletes. So it's former England footballer Lily Parr, 2-time Wimbledon champion Dorothy Round, and the Olympic pentathlon winner Lady Mary Peters. So that's only Mary Peters is the only one that's still alive out of that trio. So Sky Sports did an interview with her, but yeah, like that, this is something that's going to change. And it's, I don't know if you remember, Chris, the Adidas campaign that they did I think it was a couple of months ago, where they put some statues of female athletes, including Vivian Miedema, the Arsenal player, and put them by London. I think it was around about London Bridge, somewhere around there. And yeah, unfortunately those statues were temporary, so they weren't permanent. So hopefully with these investigations and studies, and we can kind of start to realize how little representation there is for women in things like statues. And yeah, if we can get a few more permanent ones, not just, temporary ones, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, that's very interesting that they've got Mary Peters, because Mary Peters is from Northern Ireland, isn't she?
Yes.
So yeah. So, they're not just relying on athletes from the mainland.
Yeah. It's, well, yeah. And I mean, as well, I think it's not like they've got a lack of, a small pool of athletes to draw from. Like, this country, Britain the UK has produced so many incredible sportswomen. Yeah. So many. So yeah, it's just obviously that they're deciding not to build statues of women, which is pretty sad.
I expect you to be out there campaigning, Nancy.
Yeah, I will. I'll be working on it.
Start a movement going there. Awesome. All right, we're going to turn to sailing now for another equality story, and this is thanks to the ocean race. You know, the ocean race, which happens every few years. The next one's coming up. I think they start at the end of this year. I'll get that right in a minute. It only happens every few years. But they have a new target now, and they're aiming for the equal number of male and female sailors for this round-the-world event by 2030. This is not the first equality story we've seen out of sailing. They're really making an effort, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's good to have kind of these targets and setting a deadline for targets, because it's not just kind of, we're working to improve gender equality or whatever. It gives them an actual deadline to work towards and ensure that it happens. So yeah, like you said, we've had other stories with sailing as well, and the ocean race is it's kind of one of the most prestigious, isn't it? And also the toughest. I think having that, an equal amount of men and women competing in that and proving that they are just as tough, I suppose, as the male sailors is really good. So yeah, I'm sure that they will be able to, that gives them 8 years to work towards that, and hopefully they should be able to achieve that.
Yeah, and they do start later this year. They start in Alicante. So they'll finish in Spain, and so they'll finish January. I think they said next January. Sorry, it starts in January. So yeah, and they have stopovers all over the world. It's a really, really thrilling race. Do you follow it?
I don't know. I'm aware of it, but I haven't actually at any point kind of sat and followed it. Live as it's been happening. But I'll definitely give it a go when it starts next year. It
is very, very exciting, and these sailors, they are so tough. I have to say, they are incredibly tough. But they start in Spain, and then they'll finish. I think they finish in Genova in Italy. So that. However months later, so about 6 months it takes to do this. But yeah, very, very, very exciting. So good for them. The ocean race is aiming for equality. because they went for the mixed crews. I think that's how it started. They had an all-female crew back in 2015. I think it was the Team SCA.
Yes, I do remember.
Right, you remember that? And then we heard that there was going to be mixed gender teams, and now there's 2 different types of boats as well. So they're looking to increase the female sailors amongst them right across the board. So good for them.
Yeah.
All right. What's our next story? This is an endorsement deal, student-athlete endorsement deal. What have you got there, Nancy?
Yeah, so this is an interesting one because of kind of, I suppose, like the regulations in the US. Obviously, student university sport is very big and quite a profitable industry as well. But NCAA rules prevent a lot of the athletes from making money. They don't get paid and they can't really have like endorsement or sponsorship deals. So you may remember, I think it was around this time last year or maybe even slightly later, they have relaxed some of those rules now so that student athletes can start to have kind of endorsement deals. And Rose Zhang, American golfer, she's actually the world number 1 amateur golfer of the US, has become the first student athlete to agree a name, image and likeness endorsement agreement with global brand Adidas. The name, image and likeness network, which is run by Adidas, will aim to involve over 50,000 student athletes across 23 sports and 101 D1 universities. So eventually there's going to be quite a few athletes with this, but Rose Zhang is the first. And she'll now be able to make money from social media posts and essentially have more control over her image, I suppose, and profit from it, which I think is only right. So Zhang will be competing in the US Women's Open, which starts tomorrow. So, just quite an interesting story there, I think, and kind of points to a different, a change in culture in America around student athletes.
Yeah, and actually that ties into another story I wanted to talk about, to the retirement, quote unquote, of a top player just now, because in January earlier this year, the United States Golf Association, they nearly doubled the US Women's Open prize money to $10 million, with the winner of this year's championship earning $1.8 million, which is the single richest payout in women's golf. And wow. Yeah, I mean, which is pretty impressive, because only a year ago there was only 3 women on the tour that earned more than $1.8 million. And the prize money for the men's is 12.5. But I think the plans are to bump the women's purse to 12 million in a few years. So, with the payout then of golf industry sponsorship contracts awarded to top players, I mean, they really do overshadow most of the best women. But, it really is interesting how that payroll is climbing in golf, and that's a serious payout. But it leads me to the story I wanted to mention. I think I told you earlier this week, Nancy, that Michelle Wee West, I don't know if you remember her, she was one of the best golfers since she was 10 years old. I think she's in her early 30s now. She's not calling it retirement, but she's going to step back from the sport. I think she's 32 now, and she's just going to step away, and she's no plans after the LPGA tournament in this year. The only other event she expects to enter is 2023 US Open at Pebble Beach Golf Links. So she's stepping back from the sport. She'll be missed, I'm sure, because she really was one of those top players. And this will be the last tournament for her for a while at Pine Needles. So she's enjoying it while she can. So, there is money in golf, which reminds me, our intrepid hiker, which we talk about every week, because Marcy Cornegay, if you're not following this, Marcy Cornegay, who is a former golf coach, she's actually hiking the Pacific Crest Trail right now. She's 365 miles in. I spoke to her this morning, Nancy, and she's going strong. And she's got 2,650 miles total. So, she's currently just north of LA, and she's obviously going from the Mexican border to the Canadian border, and that's going to take her about 4 months. But I'd imagine a stroll around a golf course after you've done that would be quite welcome, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it'd be a nice recovery.
Most definitely. All right, let's talk about the Olympics, Nancy. Because we talk about the Olympics all the time here, but, you know, the sports come and go for the Olympics, right? And most sports have to compete to maintain their position on the roster, right? And they have to be inclusive, and they have to have the global numbers and, you know, the reach. There's a lot of criteria there. But now they're talking about the Los Angeles Olympics, which is after Paris, of course, and in 2028. And they're talking about bringing in potentially something that I don't know how they even call cheerleading a sport. Do you?
No, I don't. Yeah, for me, it's not a sport, to be honest. It has surprised me, I think, to see it's up for inclusion at the Olympics. And you know, somebody up high makes these decisions. They're going to look at other potential newcomers like cricket, flag football, and lacrosse. And meanwhile, there's a question over what you would imagine would be frontrunners going into an American venue for the Olympic Games, baseball and softball. You'd think they'd be a given, but not so, apparently. I think they've got to fight for their position. I get lacrosse. I think lacrosse, potentially, you know, why not be an Olympic sport? It's played far and wide. Flag football, not so much. Like, I don't even know why cheerleading and flag football are even considered. Do you? No, yeah, and I think, like you said, I just don't think have that universal popularity either. I think, yeah, definitely there's some sports you can have an argument for, but yeah, if it's something that's going in the Olympics, so you need to have enough kind of established like setups and teams around the world, and cheerleading and flag football aren't quite there for me.
No. Well, we'll keep you posted here. Well, you know, there's still time for others to come along. And modern pentathlete has got to get their act together, haven't they? They've got to have a substitute sport for riding finalised if they're going to stay in. Equestrian sports have always had a battle to stay in, again, for universal inclusivity. So, yeah. I'm sure this story will keep on running for a long time. So check in with us here at the WiSP Sports Desk every week, and Nancy and I will keep you updated. Anything else, Nancy, on this week's roster? No, I think no more news stories. Just looking forward to the French Open final at the weekend. I suppose it's after that it's a relatively quiet period for women's sport, not too much happening, but then we've got Wimbledon and the Euros to look forward to. So, yeah, some exciting things on the horizon. Yeah, Wimbledon obviously coming up very, very shortly. Then, when does the Euros actually start, Nancy?
So July 6th, so coming up to a month out now.
Yeah, all right, we've got a little while, but it'll be here before we know it. And you're just going to be unbearable for how long? How many weeks is it?
4 weeks. 4 weeks. Football's going to be at the top of my agenda. I'm not going to lie.
All right, I may not be able to talk about any other sport then for those 4 weeks. We'll see. Maybe we just take a break.
Yeah. A Euros-induced break.
Yes, exactly. All right, Nancy, well, that about wraps it up. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
Yep. So Twitter, I'm on at Nancy_Gillen. Instagram, I'm on NancyGillen_sports. And then Give Me Sport Women is where all my work is. And yeah, you can find us on Twitter at Give Me Sport W.
Excellent. And we, of course, are at WiSP Sports. Join us again next week for more news from around the world of women's sports. I'm Chris Stafford alongside Nancy Gillen. Thanks for listening.